At the very least, Christopher Luxon could learn to syncopate his podium thumping with his uninspiring words, Dita Deboney writes in this week's Flip Side. And Dita, fair to say you weren't overly impressed with his speech to the party faithful at the weekend.
I didn't like his syncopation. That's certainly true. I found it very off-putting because he'd do things like, "We've got to get it done," like that. That didn't quite work for me. I just, like many other commentators, I think I found his comments very reminiscent of past national leaders trying to make a stand on the stage. He had an option, I think, and a chance to really genuinely reset the National Party. It's in everyone's interest that we have a good opposition. And I think sort of reverting to tactics of the past, I mean, if you look at John Key's 2009, I think, speech about the underclass, and if you look at the Orewa speech by Don Brash, there's many, many similarities that come through these speeches. And I think the party infrastructure, the wise old heads of National, need a clean out. I mean, they just are not setting the party up for future success or for young voters, in my view.
Yes, well, when you're comparing him to the philosopher Britney Spears, that's got to be a low moment in terms of, if you want to live fancy, you got to work. So that's sort of what it came down to, really, what he was saying. And his choice of Bills by LunchMoney Luxon is his,
Yeah,
favourite song.
that's right. I mean, what is I find disappointing about these men, John Key, Don Brash, and Christopher Luxon, and many other national leaders, they're intelligent people, but they always retreat to this kind of use of the other, of finding a scapegoat, an enemy within. When actually, and they talk also about it being aspirational, but I don't see that as aspirational. I mean, why focus on this relatively small amount? Okay, it's a problematic group of people, no doubt, with complex needs that would cost a lot of money to fix. But why focus on a small number of people with intractable social problems when there are many, many young people working who cannot afford a house, for example? That is more of a problem to focus on, in my view.
And look, extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. And, we've certainly got some extraordinary things going on at the moment, but we're not really hearing those extraordinary ideas coming from National, are we?
Well, that's what I think. They are going to be outflanked by ACT because ACT at least present ideas that may appear to some people to be new and fresh and acknowledge that there is a problem that needs changing, whereas National is really wedded to the status quo. But as you say, it is extraordinary times at the moment, dealing with global forces that require really intelligent lateral solutions, not a retreat to, ghosts of the past.
And what you're saying here too is that there's a bit of a whiff of there are people out there that are beyond help. Just
Mm.
what are you thinking about there?
I just think it is probably quite a common thought of people who are conservatively minded, that there's sort of a subclass of people that just will never, most people can make their way up through whatever problem and they can and reach the top. They can go from a state house to the prime minister and so forth. That's a common thing. But the flip side of that kind of mantra is that there's a group of people who will never make it out. And it's sort of, it's and to my mind, it sounds like believing the worst of humankind. Like, there are these people who, young people who don't want to work, I say to you, your time is, your free ride's over. That's what Luxon actually said. And I just thought, what a negative and meaningless thing to say, really. Why not bring us all together somehow? I'm sure Labor doesn't have all the answers. There's probably a need for some clever answers, but, they're not coming from Luxon at the moment, sadly.
Meanwhile, of course, the latest poll is showing that he could form a government. But then we, of course, have had the Sam Uffindell saga this week. I wonder if that'll
Yes.
dent the polls.
There must be some, and here again, you could question who is making the decisions in National and whether these old guard of people who do not understand how hypocritical and kind of the tide has turned on this kind of bullying behavior, even though it's boys being boys, perhaps at 13 or 16 or whatever. I mean, as the mother of a 16-year-old, I'd be horrified if my child ever did that to another child. And I can't imagine anyone considering that to be normal. Maybe it was when he was at school. But, you know, it seems tone deaf to me to think that that is nothing and we can carry on, because every time people look at him, that's what they're going to see, a bully who was beating his school chum with a bed leg. You know, that's what they're going to see when they see him. So I think it's a mistake on many levels for the National Party.
Dita Duboni, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.